One of my favorite things I saw is someone talking about that movie and being like, "This is sad because you can see his career die in real time." Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host as always, Joe, and with me, the man who learned all his techniques of love from Mike Myers' Love Guru, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it's a pretty quick read. Mike Myers, Love Guru. Um, it's it's got a really, but the appendix is really long. The appendix, no, that not the appendix. The appendix is only like 20 pages. It's the index. The index is actually 732 pages. So that fills it out to be like you know 1100 something pages. Most people really just kind of see that and they go, "Oh, it's too much." Um, but the index is there so you can, after you read the information, you can find different stuff really quickly. Yeah. So,
Most people would just watch the movie, and it's only an hour and 27 minutes.
yeah,
Yeah,
but you're not really getting. I mean, you're just getting the tea. I mean, it's basically a commercial for the book. That's all that is. So, if you really want to get down to brass tacks, you've got to read the book. And really, even that's not going to do it. You have to get to you have the book is a novelization of the tutorial. So if you can kind of just go down the rabbit hole where it's just like the movie and then a novelization and then finally you get to the literal textbook tutorial. And that but I say you just start with that, and you'll save yourself some time because it really is going to teach you everything you need to know about about that stuff, man.
one of my favorite things I saw is someone talking about that movie and being like, "This is sad because you can see his career die in real time."
Watch his. I mean, like he did. I mean, I didn't even remember him doing that. I just remember the Austin Powers movies happening and kind of being like the biggest thing in the world. Especially the Austin Powers 3. Was it Gold Member? Or wasn't that the third one?
That was
Um,
the third one.
and then like that was huge. And then it just and then it was gone. And then it was like and then I looked around like 5 years later and I was like, what happened to Mike Myers? I just was like, but I didn't realize that the Love Guru came out.
Yes, I mean, it was funny because it was a travesty. Like I watched it, and it was such a bad movie. But the funny part is, it's like, you hadn't really he kind of disappeared off the face of the earth, but did make a little cameo in Inglorious Bastards. I'm pretty sure he was Churchill with like a bunch of makeup on, and it was just really funny because like, wait a minute, what? Of all the things to just randomly appear in, uh, I feel like every comedian from the early mid '90s goes through that phase where that they do that one movie that just sends them off a cliff, like um, Adam Sandler with it was probably what Jack and Jill or something like that, where it's just like really this person's dead right dead on arrival any new movie or they make, and then Adam Sandler on the other hand making Netflix deal where it's like, well, I'm just going to keep on going until society just accepts me as being just mediocre and until I make something good again, and then they will like welcome me back.
Yeah, yeah. Adam Sandler kind of is pretty undaunted. I think that he turned around, that he turned his the, his societal, like the way society viewed him, however you want to call that. He turned that around with Click was the first one I remember people being like, "That's actually a really good movie," and then 51st Dates. People were like, "That's actually a really good movie." I've only seen Click like in part, but but yeah, like I mean, even Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, that they did Geely, right? Like, which is like literally critically
All right.
like the worst
Uh,
movie ever made, or one of them.
all right. So it was funny because I'm not a big Kevin Smith fan. In fact, I only like a few of his early works, and then a lot of Kevin Smith stuff later on. I think is uh, I just can't agree with him as a director. But
He's
anyways,
yeah.
that movie. uh, when that came out, that was the movie came out just after they broke up, and
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah,
Wait,
and
did
he
he?
goes, "Don't worry." She like yeah, because you know
I for.
Lopez, she left, and so he was just like that was going to hurt the marketing. It was going to hurt the marketing, and he's like I goes, I wanted to send it out with the message to everyone, like, "Don't worry, she dead in the first 5 minutes." You know,
Wow. Okay.
all the marketing showed them together like a happy love story, and it's actually about a single father, like kind of story arc. So the movie wasn't bad, and it was one of the best like references to Sweeney Todd I've seen in anything. The kids, like the elementary school kids, are making a Sweeney Todd musical, and so at the end they end up rigging a chair for like the school play, and
Right. Yeah. You.
so the kid reclines, and then he goes, and little kid goes slash, and then they take red yarn and they're pulling it from his face, and the kid just convulsing on the chair. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm
I
like,
think freaking Al Pacino makes a cameo in that movie, if I remember right. I don't. I think he's just. I think he's in the preview. I never saw the movie. I only saw previews. But I did not know that that happened to Jennifer Lopez in that movie. I forgot that Kevin Smith directed that. Gosh, like that's crazy. But yeah, like people have they have movies that just bomb, and some people can kind of recover, and other people kind of can't. I don't know. Kind of think Mike Myers probably stepped away as much as he got, blackballed or whatever. I think he probably was also just like, you know what? I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that being that bad, and maybe I need to quit acting for a little while, or quit being in funny movies or whatever for a little while. Um, but because I feel like he was probably big enough to like, yeah, you made a clunker. Just you can go ahead and start working on the next thing, and we'll just wait an extra year to put it out, um, so that your reputation kind of recovers. But anyway,
the thing is for you mentioning the way you mentioned the Adam Sandler movies, you mentioned them all in the reverse order though. That's the thing. You're so like you started
okay.
going back and being like,
So Fifty
because
First Dates came first. I can't remember.
yeah. So yeah, it's if 51st Dates was like what, 04?
Was it what long ago?
And
Okay.
yeah, so it's like it might have been 03 even. I know because it came out after Mr. Deeds, and a lot of people like that one. I already figured, by the time Little Nicky came out, I'm like, okay, he's done. I figured he's just washed up at that point, but he still made movies and people still liked him. I mean, because it was Mr. Deeds. He had Punch Drunk Love around the same time. He did. And then 51st Dates kind of put him back up, and then after that was Click. Click
Li-
was 08, 09.
Little
Um,
Nicky. Little Nicky has it's all dumb except there's one part where like the reverend is like, the Lord loves you, and the Lord loves you, and the Lord loves you. You make the Lord very nervous. Like that that is actually really funny. But yeah, I think 51st Dates people were like, oh, so he kind of figured out he could make a semi funny movie with a really hardcore, heartfelt family message, and then it would sell gangbusters, and be like critically like but like become a critical darling as well. Because like 51st Dates, I mean, I've seen it, but I didn't really think anything was funny. Click, I didn't pay any attention to really when I was watching it. Um,
Click was
so
a solid movie. Click was solid.
yeah,
51st Dates is cute, despite the other implications behind it and stuff like that. And I mean, he started, ended up going to, it's like I think it's like around 2010 is when he started started getting really weird. I mean, he did Grown Ups. Shortly after that, okay, Jack and Jill. I think Jack and Jill was like, oh man, you're kind of garbage. But then he also shortly after that came out with Hotel Transylvania, which I thought was garbage. But like they've made like 3 or 4 of them now, so apparently that makes them money. Um,
yeah.
you know,
Sometimes it's just for
so it's one of
kids.
those things that. But he kept on with it, and eventually, like I said, despite it being a lot of mediocre stuff, like nothing terrible, but like nothing really great. He still one, kept relevant and kept in people's minds, and then making having that deal with Netflix, making a bunch of stuff, coming back in a lot of ways, not to the old glory, but still. And I feel like a lot of actors, comedians from the late '90s, or mid to late '90s, kind of, you did one of two things: you either did something so bad that you just disappeared, um, and you're like, well, I'm done. I'm just done trying. I'm going to take my money and just live life, or you had to endure like he did. And so, like, yeah, good for him for keep on with it. But I have not seen a movie of his in a very long time. So
Yeah, every time I see one of those kind of movies from him, I'm just like, yeah, I'll pass. I I do want to watch Uncut Gems because I've always heard that it was like really well acted and stuff. But yeah, anyway, Adam Sandler.
all right, yeah. Once again, another role model of yours, I can most definitely see, especially with the voice acting you like to do so much.
Would you like a piece of pie? That's
Uh,
actually
Christopher
that's
Walken
okay.
was in Click, and his role was great in that one too. Uh,
Yeah, Christopher Walken. Yeah, he was great in that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
No, man. All right. So we usually talk about games too. The big thing of this week was Sony's State of Play. First one of the year, and kind of got to have us have a decent look at the future, what to anticipate, and yeah, why don't you just kick us off with the first game on that they showed?
Yeah. So they showed quite a few things. Perusing through the list, because I looked through the list before I actually watched it, and I was like, oh, none of this looks really any good. But after I watched it, I was more intrigued. I thought I might be. But first thing up, they just showed a Monster Hunter Wilds trailer. So that game's like just about to come out. Um, and got to play the beta. I'll talk about that later. So I feel like that's kind of a known quantity, at least in terms of previews. It's not really worth talking about. And then they showed Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I don't have really any experience with the Shinobi games, but the name is quite well known, kind of a classic. This one looked pretty cool, but probably not going to pick it up. It's not enough for me to want to pick up.
Yeah, Shinobi games have gone back since Sega, the original Sega Master System, and uh, they've been always fun side scrollers. It's kind of a franchise that's kind of disappeared for a while. This is kind of looks of the Mark of the Ninja,
Mm,
or I think they said it was supposed to be done by the Streets of Rage 4 team.
okay.
So that's cool. And Streets of Rage 4 was a pretty good homage, or like a remake of the older style. So I think they'll do this one justice. Uh, I mean, Revenge of Shinobi I think was the one I played the most of. And it was a neat game. I mean,
Mhm.
so yeah, I'm kind of happy to see that they're bringing back and sharing some love of the old franchises. They'll probably come out if they don't already have one, which I don't think so. But like, I can see them coming out with a pack of like all the old ones, the old games brought to you, in one nice package with some, maybe some art or something like that.
That would be
I can see
cool.
them doing that in the near future. All right, next game.
Next up, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Every time I see like Sonic in a car racing, I'm just like, what are we doing? I don't know. It looks like a just sort of a simple racing game to me. Um, it doesn't. It didn't really pique my interest all that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another one of them, but the games are very good. They're pretty well done as a whole, and
I like the
it's the
racing
only real
aspects of them.
competition. Yeah, I mean, it's a Mario Kart clone,
Right.
but it's one of those things that if you are tired of just looking at Mario Kart, or you want to play on a system that's not Nintendo, then
Mm,
yes, there's not really a whole lot else out there, and but they're solid. So I mean, what they showed was. It looks like you're going to be doing some, the vehicles will transform again. Look like some sort of boat jet, kind of, motif, and look like flying as well, probably. So, because they showed him launching off an aircraft carrier. All right. I mean that level's been there before. I'm pretty sure. So at least it's a fun. It's another Mario Kart racing game that people can play.
yeah.
All right.
Next up,
What you
Digimon
decide?
Story Time Stranger. I kind of watching this game. It looks all right. The models of the Digimon and stuff look pretty cool. Um, uh, when I was a kid, I really kind of liked some of the Digimon stuff that I saw. But this game, um, it looks sort of like I don't know. It's hard to say because I wasn't really paying too much attention once I saw it was Digimon, but it looks kind of like a some sort of a standard kind of RPG. But it also has a pretty nice art style, clean lines and stuff like that. But besides that, seems kind of normal.
Yeah, for uh, Digimon was always the better. Like it had a really neat storyline to the series. I was always a Digimon fan for a long time. Uh, it's one of those things that it was not as mainstream as Pokemon was, but it was most definitely had a more mature theme. They've gone everywhere from in that series, and they've made so many iterations. So it's kind of I've not kept up with it at all. It looks cool. I'm not gonna play it, but I
Yeah,
kind of want to know more about it. So as uh, backwards as that sounds.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just curious. I hope it does well. It's, I mean, I think it was the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, that Zero or whatever. At one point, they make a Digimon reference,
Mhm.
and I just remember laughing out loud because they're talking about the evolution of like the evil spirits, and they're like, so it's like Greymon turning into. And I'm like, and it was just I laughed out loud. My spouse looked at me like. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, I'm like, it's a Pokemon, or no, it's a Digimon reference, and that's all I can say. Like they have good routes and bad routes, and that's how they change. That's the boilerplate of it. I'm like, you just can't explain it without going into like a flow chart.
Yeah, man. That's pretty great. Um, Next up, a little game called Lost Soul Aside. This game piqued my interest in some ways. It had a pretty cool art style. Looks like it would be pretty fun to play, but it also seemed sort of just like a standard anime RPG, um, like kind of over the top. Like I don't know, it's kind of weird to say, like over the top, but still not really anything particularly innovative in the storyline and stuff. Um, it it there are some aspects I was like, oh, that looks kind of nice. That looks kind of nice. So it's one of those games where I, if I hear good things about it, then I might try to pick it up. But it'll have to be like, hey, this game is actually a lot better than it looks. I'd have to hear things like that. Not like, oh, this game's pretty good. It has to be like, hey, we know this game looks one way, but it's actually doing this and this other cool thing. Then I might be more intrigued.
Yeah, this one came out looking. Um, it is very stylish action. It reminds me of kind of a DMC or a little bit of was it like a Stellar Blade almost? It's just it looks very cool. And I don't know. I want to know story. I want to know what the like if it has a cool story with it, then great. I think it's one of those um it just if it's just the action alone, it's not going to sell me. But if it has even
It's
if it has a mediocre story,
I mean, it is
it's
like on
right on
that
the cusp.
tipping
Yeah.
point where it's like, man, if you guys just did like a couple things different with like the gameplay, like one thing that was a little more interesting with the gameplay and one thing that was a little more interesting with the story, then it would kind of tip it to where I would at least want to try to play it, or at least be looking for the next trailer, trying to figure it out. But as it is like just kind of on the wrong side of that fence.
All right. All right. What do you got then?
Next up, a couple of Like a Dragon things. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza, coming out real soon. I forget when they said exactly. Um, and then the other thing is there's going to be some Dave the Diver DLC that is mixing with Like a Dragon. It's going to be called Ichiban's Holiday. And that's actually the thing that I'm more excited about because I played quite a bit of Dave the Diver, but kind of in the trailer of this part they showed like Ichiban in the pixelated style that Dave the Diver is, and he's like shirtless and yelling, and you get to do stuff like with him or whatever. So I was like, oh, that's like that's funny and weird. But yeah, so those are coming out pretty soon.
I believe the Like a Dragon, the Pirate Yakuza. Uh, that's supposed to be there's a demo, I believe that's playable. And yeah, the neat thing about the Dave the Diver Ichiban holiday DLC is they actually it looks like they actually have some side scrolling mini game like beat 'em up style. So kind of like the old Streets of Rage as well. So that's kind of funny. Or it's I think that Dave the Diver is a unique tie-in to do. But if being around that same scope. I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
and and then
It'll
both
be
being about
entertaining. They know
water.
how to entertain.
Yeah, like the Pirate Yakuza being about water, and then Dave the Diver being all about water. It's kind of it is good to kind of marry those.
All right, and then I quick added this one in. One of the things that was there is they Sean Benson was the one who introduced the Yakuza stuff, and she also mentioned Splitgate 2. So I
Mm,
don't know if you remember Splitgate 2, but this is that uh, it's essentially a arena shooter, but the concept instead is you're using portals to kill each other. So
okay.
it's literally you can set up portals around the map, jump through them, teleport through them, or set up booby traps, or even like snipe from afar. So you just set up a portal somewhere, and then you can shoot through yours to hit someone else on across the map, kind of deal. Um,
Nice.
I remember when I was first. I honestly don't remember the history of this at all that much. I remember when it was first announced and like there was betas and stuff like that running. People seem to like it, and I just never. I'm not really a big arena shooter fan or like just a competitive shooting person. So
Mm.
I was just like, that's a neat concept, and I hope they do something with it. And yeah, so that's about it. It was just something to take note of and to share with that. And then the next one. Uh, they talked about the new WWE 2K25, and one of the big things on it was it's called The Island. I don't care about wrestling at all, but when I was watching this, I'm like, as they're describing The Island, they're playing this synth background, which is like reminiscent of like Stranger Things, and I'm like, this is really solid. It has no reason to be in a wrestling trailer. It's like it is the wrong demographic for wrestling fans. Uh,
This
I
synth
know you
wave
need
is
some
too
loud butt
good for
rock
this
or
game.
something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I need to go back and listen to it. I think whenever I saw the WWE come up, I was like, I think I'm gonna skip through this. So I skipped through that part, but I need to go back and listen to this cool synthwave song that you were talking about.
I mean, it's pretty like I said, it's pretty average on par for anything, but still,
Mm,
it's just still really like this is a really good background thing, and I care about more about this than I do the actual thing. I mean, in my brain, I'm like, okay, you call it the island, then you know what, you're just going to go full like Enter the Dragon. You should just have put wrestlers. I remember they joked about that with COVID when they're like, one of the UFC groups or something like, yeah, we want to have an island, so therefore our fighters can go on here, we can film them, in the octagon, and they can be quarantined because we're on an island. It's like
mm.
like that's a neat concept, but it ain't gonna happen, and it never did. But yeah, so anyways, new WWE stuff. You're usually more of a fan of that stuff as a whole than I am. Yeah, I
I,
checked out
I am a
immediately.
I'm a voyeur of that whole industry. I will wait for the YouTube video to come out or the documentary to come out about it. Um, but yeah. Next up, Borderlands 4. Um, I'm not gonna play this. It's not the kind of game that I really like, but looking at it, it does look nice. The shooting looks pretty good. Hard to tell how good that really is until you get your hands on it, but it looks good and it should be good. And then the particle effects and textures and kind of the like enemies and stuff. The trailer looked like a lot of the enemies were. I mean, I don't want to say they were just standing there, but they didn't look like they were really doing too much that was dynamic. Of course, it's hard to tell in one tiny little trailer, but otherwise it does it does look good. It does look like a lot of effort was put into it. So yeah, and I think Randy Pitchford came out to talk a little bit about it as well.
It was Randy Vernell and Randy Pitchford, and they thought it was hilarious to have two Randys up there. I don't know. I feel that you should not have Randy Pitchford front facing at all anymore. After, like he's just a
After all
Yahoo
he's given
person.
us, yeah,
Yes, yes. So I mean, you're better off just putting him in the trunk of a car and just forgetting about him, or just letting him run things from the closet. Just it. He runs the show. Does not have to be in front of anybody. I think it hurts brand imaging if anything else. Um, I'm I like the Borderlands games. I did not play three, but one and two, prequel story and stuff like that. I own them. I like them. You got to play with the right people,
right,
or you play with the wrong person, and then you absolutely have a terrible time. Yeah, the humor gotten exaggerated over time, and
yeah.
I think they already announced that they're supposed to be making they to try to put people at ease. They're like, yeah, number four, um, is going to have less toilet humor. I'm like, so I think they even realized that they've kind of overextended themselves.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I do remember that was kind of the main thing was like, it's okay here and it's okay there, but the main thing hearing people criticize about it was, yeah, the pee pee poo poo humor is just kind of childish and overdone and just it's like that's like not always bad or anything, because there is some funny stuff like that, but it's like all right, you've got to give me something a bit more than just like fifth grade playground type stuff. Um,
I mean, when it comes to the uh, Borderlands formula, I mean, like that. It's just like they tried making a big thing about like we got more guns and stuff. I'm like more guns for you than you can count. Like you've always, that was their marketing from day one. A trillion guns. It was great because back then you can mod. There's a lot of people who modded them on Xbox, the original Xbox 360, I should say. They were able to mod guns and then share them, and it was a pretty neat thing. You can get them to do like a shotgun that fires like rockets and stuff like that. So that was always a good time. Uh, just apparently story wise, three just did not hit well.
mm,
From what I heard, it was just like they kind of missed what made it entertaining, and then with the collapse of the movie, um,
oh,
you
I
know,
forgot about that. Kate
yeah, most people
Blanchett was
have.
in that. Oh wow,
Yeah,
dang,
Kevin Hart, your favorite. So
Kevin
they
Hart.
had a lot of big names in that one, and still did garbage. So there's kind of a make or break scenario. I think it's like if this one doesn't land, they might be kind of in trouble. You know, so it just has to be okay. Honestly, to be fair, in order for them to make money, it just has to be mediocre. And if it's
Mm,
mediocre, there's going to be enough people who still like the franchise from before and still want to play, 2 to 4 players with friends and have a good time. And I think that it's enough to carry them.
yeah, they can. I mean,
So
they can get a stay of execution if it's mediocre. But if the next one, if five or whatever they decide to do in that vein is mediocre, then I think it'll probably be too much of an erosion. I don't. I think it'll probably sell pretty well. I think they probably have. They'll make the safe play, and it'll sell well and be. I think it'll probably be pretty well regarded, and then and it'll probably be fine. But yeah, yeah, you're right. They it sounds like they have done what they need to.
yeah. All right.
Um,
Then the next one that they mentioned showed up was Split Fiction, Hazelight Studios' new one. The guys who did you know uh, Takes Two, and you know was it Brothers Tale of Two Sons.
right.
Uh, so they showed more. They had a trailer showing more about that. Uh,
This
I mean,
game,
I don't think it needs to be shown more. I mean, I think we got it. Like we
prop,
know what it's
you know,
about.
Probably not, but this game does look pretty good. I mean, it looks there's definitely some writing stuff that's in the trailer where I'm like, yeah, okay, that's or maybe the writing is good. The dialogue is kind of silly, but like the style of story that it is and what you're doing in it looks pretty good. Um, so I'm actually pretty interested in it. I think that it was either this or another one that's going to be coming to like PS Plus day one or something like that. Maybe I feel like it was
I believe I can feel it. I think it might be this one. I mean,
yeah.
this was already announced before, and with Xbox, and they have all the other games. I'm pretty sure on Xbox Game Pass. So
And this one
it's because it's with EA. So
uh this one too regardless of the PlayStation Plus stuff is made so that because it is a co-op game. It's made so that only one of the people in the co-op has to actually own the game. So if you own it, then you can invite somebody to play. I'm not sure about the crossplay aspects of it, but you can invite somebody to play, and they can play even if they don't have the game. So pretty cool on that. I think these kind of games need that in order to survive and sell well and kind of get good word of mouth.
yeah, they started that I think with originally It Takes Two. So
Yeah.
which is the right
Mm.
move without. So anyways, uh, it's supposed to be coming out beginning of March. I think it was March 6th. Um, so it's coming out soon enough. And as far as having played the other ones, I think this is going to be just the gameplay is always pretty fun with these games. And I've played all the other ones with a different buddy of mine. Uh, we kind of hate played X2, uh,
It's
game of the year winner,
crazy to say
and we
that,
we
but
we hate
yeah.
played that one. But I think the other one. I'm trying to remember the A Way Out. A Way Out was, I
Mm,
think, even though it was kind of a little formulaic, it was still far better game. And so this one, I'm excited about because it looks really nice. And uh, though, once again, I think the trailer is giving too much. It's like
mm.
I don't know. It's like one. It's like this person likes apples, this person likes oranges. And like we're putting them together, and it's just like I don't know. It's
Yeah, they
uh,
did. I forget what
we
it
we
was.
understand you're two different you're two different ladies with two different backgrounds, and obviously one person likes fantasy and the other what's the opposite of fantasy? Sci-fi. Like, all right, sure.
Yeah,
And it's like
it's like we're so different. How are we
you
ever
know
going to get along? Maybe we'll learn how
I
to.
don't like to talk about my feelings, and I'm like I like to talk too much. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyways,
It,
it's a very heavy-handed trope, and like we're gonna smush them to make it work. But I think the visuals and I think the overall journey and like the gameplay should be fun. I think just alone, I think it's far better vibes than the previous one, just because that stupid Doctor Hakim book or whatever
mm,
that love book is just I hate it so much. That was such a stupid story that had no real conclusion, and it's just like just child magic, and that's the story. That's it, child magic. I'm like that last game was garbage, dude. I don't think anyone finished it. That's the problem. Is
that's why I
I think
won.
everyone who voted for it played the first chapter. I'm like, this is a pretty all right, and then they didn't see it to the end. Um. Anyways, enough about Haze Light. Let's move to Supermassive. Uh, yeah, I was super excited about this one.
So yeah, so I was gonna say this one and then kind of let you talk about it because this is more up your alley. This does look really good to me though. A game coming out called Directive 8020, and then just a little bit about kind of what I saw in it, just kind of what the story seems to be about. Um, it seems kind of like Event Horizon meets something else or something else that I was like, dang, this looks like Event Horizon and another thing, but very heavy Event Horizon vibes. Um, if you've seen that movie, if you haven't seen the movie, then go watch a trailer for it and you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is made by some guys that you really like and played quite a few of their games, right?
Yeah. So once again, Supermassive Games. They're the guys who do all the Dark Pictures. This is actually the fifth in the Dark Pictures anthology. So as far as The current games in that one, I mean, you have what was it, Man of Medan?
Mm.
I'm trying to remember, like Little Hope, House of Ash, The Devil in Me. So I mean, these games are all have like really good uh, character modeling. It's I think was it Sean Ashmore was in he was in one of them. I can't remember off the top of my head now. So they always have like kind of famous people playing in their games. Each one has a different these the Dark Picture anthologies are more bite-sized bits. That's what makes them a little nicer opposed to their early games. Uh, so like Until Dawn and stuff there where you're not having to sit there forever. It's usually a choose your own adventure kind of setup. It
Right.
feels that way. It's like not really. You can choose to like depending on how you play, characters can live and die, and you can generally try to have them, the majority of them survive. If uh, I don't know, they're just fun. They're just fun little horror, jaunts. And being set in a sci-fi spot that has now kind of piqued my interest, and it looks really good as all their games do. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's really it.
the like sci-fi horror aspect of it does look pretty good. Uh, it it has it was like, "Oh, okay, this is kind of more my speeds than some of the other game stories, and I know that you really liked them a lot. Um, but yeah, so it also shouldn't be too long of a game, I don't imagine. So kind of excited about it. Um,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was unexpected. I mean, granted, they always going to make a new thing, but to have it set in a sci-fi, space setting, not just sci-fi, but in a space setting, and for sure. I mean, whenever you get to psychological or space horror, like you always get to like Event Horizon's just the bench, like that is the starting line.
mm,
Like everything is either Event Horizon or not. I mean, you can get like maybe Sunshine is a good psychological horror kind of,
mm-hmm.
but anyways, no, totally excited about this. I don't remember if I don't think it had a date release date on this one yet. So, um, yeah, it's supposed to be. Oh no, actually, correction. October. This one's coming out in October,
Right,
at
I was
least for now.
thinking Halloween whenever they showed it. It was like I think it's like
Yeah,
October 2nd or something.
it is October 2nd, and so that even if it gets pushed back a little bit, hopefully it won't get pushed back too much because they really should hit that holiday mark just to really amp up the sales,
It's probably ready now, and they're just holding it until Halloween because it's gonna
polishing. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna sell better. Next up, Five Nights at Freddy's: Secret of the Mimic. Um, the Five Nights at Freddy games get a lot of flack for being kind of what they are. They're sort of um, more popular than a lot of people feel they should be. Um, but and this one doesn't make me want to play anymore. But it does look pretty good for a Five Nights at Freddy's game. It looks uh, a lot like the other stuff that the other games do, but just kind of more advanced. And um, anyway, so that's really all there probably is to say about it as far as I'm concerned. But I was like, oh, okay, this not gonna play it, but looks all right.
Yeah, I have zero interest in any of the FNAF games. I've I believe this is supposed to have VR capability. I know they've recently came out with two others that were on PSVR 2, and I mean, I don't know, it's simple. Like I always just took the franchise as a simple jump scare kind of thing. I think the takeaway in this one is it's supposed to have more story in it.
Mm,
So for those who are invested in the lore, then yay. And I'm like, hey, people will be happy. So like, it's not for me, but if hopefully it comes out to be good, and hopefully someone out there really, it can enjoy it in the end. All right,
sure, a lot of
what's
people
next then,
will.
man?
Next up is now we're kind of getting into more of the more interesting games. The Midnight Walk, which is basically it's kind of a disservice to call it like an FPS, but that is like the very basic premise of the gameplay from what I kind of remember. But the sort of the, um, the the notable stuff about this game is the art style is pretty um, kind of dark and twisted. in sort of a, I don't want to call it out too much, but like a Nightmare Before Christmas kind of way. Um,
Oh
the
no, they wear that sleeve. They wear that on their sleeve pretty heavy. I think
okay, okay,
there's like a mayor
but
character that who looks. There's a character that looks very similar to the mayor from Nightmare Before Christmas.
100%, hundred
And
percent. But like kind of like the Nightmare Before Christmas, the developers came on just before, and they were holding these two models, and they were saying that the whole game has been done in claymation. I kind of think that they probably is like an asterisk to that, but it does seem like the game has been done in claymation in part and modeled, and then and then maybe extrapolated from that. So it does have that quality, and it looks kind of like that. Looks pretty good. I think they do. Um, on at first glance, I think they do a little bit better job than the South of Midnight game. Of course, we've seen a bit more of that than this one, but yeah. So I think that it looks pretty good. And I I had seen a little preview of it a while ago, and I saved it to my wish list on the PlayStation Store. So yeah, looking forward to it. It looks like it'll be pretty cool.
yeah, this is I believe Fast Travel Games, and they have this is supposed to be also have some VR in it as well, or be able to be played in VR, I believe. Um, they have a they do have a history with VR games, so I'm kind of curious to um, see how this plays out. I mean, it looks really cool. Yes, it does have some first person aesthetics. You have like like a torch cannon or something,
Mhm.
and you're escorting like this flame, the pot character. So I'm kind of curious how much encumbrance that's going to be, or if they're just going to disappear and just reappear for said cutscenes.
Mm.
Because I don't think this can't be an escort mission game, right? Like you can't do escort missions anymore. It could be like, hey, I'm going to like piggyback on you while you carry me through the game, literally. But this can't be like, hey, I have to cover you while we do stuff. I just think that would be insane.
I
Um,
mean, if it's part of the gameplay, then it could be cool and fun. But yeah, hopefully it's along those lines, because I would also kind of hate for it's like, okay, I'm the whole point of the game, but I'm gonna disappear every time there's a cutscene. It'd be like, well, or every time there's an actual battle or whatever, I only come out in the cutscenes. Then that would be kind of silly to me. So if it is
I don't
like
know,
that,
man. I always told Ashley to get in the dumpster in Resident Evil 4. I'm like, get in the dumpster. I'm gonna go fight. I'll come back for you later. Because whenever she wasn't in the dumpster, she was being thrown over somebody's shoulder, and I had to rescue her, and that was annoying as crap. So yes, I find it just fine. Just go in a hole in the ground. Wait until I'm done murdering, and then grab you and go. All right.
yeah.
Anyways, no, the Midnight Walk. Looking forward to it, and that like I said, it's pretty awesome that way. The next game that came out, you wanted to talk about this one, I know. So
Yeah, there's not too much to say about it because they didn't show too much, but a little game called Darwin's Paradox. It is about a octopus, so you are an octopus that is trying to escape a food processing plant. They don't really show too much about it, but it does it is an interesting concept. Have to see more to see if the gameplay is really kind of worth diving in. And it's also looks like it looks kind of like a small game, so it might be one that I wait for to come out like on PS Plus or something, because it seems like it might go that way fairly quickly. But yeah, it seemed it piqued my interest. Seemed kind of interesting.
um, I forgot to mention real quick. Was it the Midnight Walk? It's supposed to be May 8th. It's supposed to be their
So
projected date.
coming up
Um,
very quickly, very quickly. That'll be here
all
before you know it.
And then yeah, Darwin's paradox. Yeah, the food processing or whatever, or at least the thing is, it's I believe it's aliens. So that's the thing is you're going to be stopping an alien invasion or something. Uh it looks like a more friendly version of Limbo. It's a side scroller in that vein.
Yeah.
Um but the thing is, you because it's colorful, unlike a Limbo or something, uh, the you can get away with it because it's an octopus and because it's the food processing and all that. I'm like, you can go really dark with the murder, like the death. It's just like I bet you can get dismembered, no problem. And but they can make it play it off as cartoony, instead of being oppressively like dark like Limbo or I can't remember. There's quite a few games that fit that same mold, but both
Inside is really
inside. Thank you.
brooding.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's yeah, you can get away with a lot more when you change the app when you just turn up the lights a little bit and make it a little bit brighter and
like
happier.
as an octopus instead of playing as
A
a small
child.
child.
Yeah, a small little boy that's getting dismembered. Ugh.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, like I said, Limbo was like that was some wicked stuff, but that's why it was only in two colors, right? Like pretty much it's all monochrome. Yes, I don't know. Darwin's Paradox seemed like it's gonna be pretty fun.
yeah,
And it's lighthearted. It's gonna be on like on everything under the sun too. It's supposed to be on like Xbox,
yeah,
Steam, Switch. So it's not, it'll be. I think it'll be fairly priced. I don't actually know what the price is or anything like that off the top of my head.
yeah. It
But it
doesn't look
should.
big.
Yeah, and there's no release date for it yet. Just still coming soon. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it as well. So cool, cool.
Next up, we have a couple sword swinging games. First one's called Warriors Abyss. Warriors colon Abyss. This kind of looks like a Dynasty Warriors type game, if I kind of remember right. And
It's part of the Dynasty Warriors
I
franchise.
figured,
So it's take Dynasty Warriors, but put it in an isometric Diablo setting. So you're top down looking at it, and you have just a bunch of enemies to slaughter through. This is going through looks like the entire Warriors franchise because one of the people they show instead of just being like Dynasty Warriors Romance of Three Kingdoms, they actually show like Oda Nobunaga, which means they're pulling from the Samurai Warriors franchise.
mm,
So yeah, this they might just have the entire Warriors thing. Honestly, I think this is fine. I mean, I think Diablo and stuff like that is best when it is hordes of enemies on screen and you get to do a bunch of stuff. So I think this will be pretty good, especially if they make it multiplayer, which I didn't actually see if it was. But if they do, then I think that'd be a lot of fun.
yeah. Um, Next up, there's a Onimusha 2 remaster coming out. I think they already remastered the first one, and I think that because I have considered buying it several times, haven't done so yet. But yeah, so there's gonna be an Onimusha 2 remaster, and then there's a new Onimusha game called Onimusha Way of the Sword that piqued my interest. Looks like some pretty good old style Onimusha combat. Sort of updated though, and then the acting um, looks pretty cool. Looks like the main character. The main character is Miyamoto Musashi, um, and the guy the way he's being portrayed is pretty um, funny, but not like too stupid or anything like that. So I was like, oh, okay, that looks kind of cool. And then I also saw this is sort of tangential. We don't really need to go all the way into this, but but I saw an article, didn't get to read into it too much about that the protagonist is played by an actor who died 28 years ago. Um, Somebody it says in the subheading, uh, Kurosawa collaborator Toshiro Mifune plays the main character. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'd kind of like to dig into that more later, but yeah, I'm kind of interested in that. I don't know if I'll actually play it because there's so much to play, but it did pique my interest.
Yeah, it's supposed to be so Onimusha 2, the Samurai's Destiny, that's supposed to be coming out the end of May, May 23rd. And I know a lot of people liked the Onimusha games. Onimusha 2, I don't really remember too much about, but it's essentially it was a samurai version, like to boil it down, real boilerplate was like Samurai Resident Evil because it had that fixed camera angles.
Yeah.
Was so it felt very much like those games, like Dino Crisis and stuff like that, because of just the way the cameras were placed. Now, I'm excited about Onimusha 2 Remastered only because now we're a step away from Onimusha 3. That means we're gonna get a remastered Jean Renault,
Jean
and that
Reno.
yes, so that, and of course the newest Onimusha that's coming out, Way of the Sword.
Mm,
That is so they've now changed Onimusha protagonists now. So it'll be interesting to see kind of if they acknowledge the previous Onimusha games at all in this one, or are they just kind of doing a a fresh series reboot and just pretending like the other Onimusha games don't exist. Um, Having the gauntlet, we'll see. I'm kind of curious about it. And since you mentioned the using a actor's likeness from a while ago, and if it's I am curious if it's the person I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure because I didn't know about the person being deceased. And now that you mentioned it, I'm like, oh, maybe it's a certain actor that I have in my mind, but I'll
mm,
have to look into it just because I think it's maybe one of the guys from Seven Samurai that I was thinking about, but
probably.
just because some of the manic expressions remind me of, and I'm forgetting his name now, but like the vagabond from Seven Samurai, and I can't remember his name now. Anyways, neither here nor there. I just one of those things I want to look up into now, and uh, I think that's pretty neat. Hopefully the family gets paid. Not like, oh yeah, there's no family member left, so we're just gonna steal him and profit
Man,
off of it. AI for the win.
I need to read more about it, but it is sort of like, what is going on here? I need to peek behind the curtain of our nightmare future real
Yeah,
quick. But,
there's no estate to argue it, so you
mm,
know, or we, it's like, hopefully if there is an estate, they get paid well. Is kind of what I want. All
yeah.
right, what else you got for us, man?
I've already seen a lot about this game. Metal Gear Solid Delta coming out. See a little bit more, and yeah, so it's just another little trailer for that.
Yeah, I mean, they got to show more of the actual gameplay on this one, I think, and uh, I don't know, everyone's being excited for Metal. I mean, it looks good for what it's worth, and this is a lot of people's favorite Metal Gear outside of one. Um, so
Mm,
I don't know. I'm glad it seems to be everything that people have been asking for. And then at the very end, so they gave a date of the end of August, August 28th, and then they show a little bit of a teaser for something to do with Ape Escape. So I was just like, they literally showed a little, just like the
I
monkey
remember
coming out of
seeing
nowhere.
that and just being like, "What in the world is going on?" And then just being like, "I don't really want to mess with this." Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, no, it's being able like Metal Gear. Uh, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater had probably one of the best opening like soundtrack themes
Mm.
like ever. It was complete Bond homage, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. So a lot of people don't know anything about that. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of excited to get this into the hands of new people. So all right, cool. What's next then?
Next up was another game I was pretty interested in. Hell is Us. Gotta say, don't love the title. Um, it's kind of cool, but it's sort of weird to read and say and think about. But the graphics and aesthetics look pretty cool. It's hard to tell what exactly you're really doing. I think it is some sort of a. I think I have a note here. I think it is some sort of an FPS. Yeah, my note is no good, but but sort of it's a kind of a brooding, weird sort of seems like alien, not horror, but kind of borrowing from like unsettling sort of weird stuff going on. The thing about this game is that I can't really tell if they are if it's going to be like a good game, like the gameplay is going to be good and interesting, um and the story is going to be good and interesting, or if they're just making it look like it's different. But when you get into it, it won't be I feel like a lot of people like Doro Hedoro, the anime and manga, and I see kind of why, but like I thought that was going to be way different from like anything else, sort of based on the art style and the world and stuff like that, and sort of the early things that were going on, and then it just really wasn't, and I'm afraid that Hell is Us is kind of going to do the same thing where it's like we look so weird and different, in and kind of mysterious, but when you get into it you're like, oh, it's just this. So yeah, it looks cool. I'm definitely very curious about it, but I'm also cautious.
I mean, they've shown this before, or they've had the announcement before, so it's not the first time we've come across this. It's a third person. It seems to be a third person action game. I mean, it may like whether it plays like a Souls like game
Mm-hmm.
or like I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be as fast as like a DMC or something like that, a Devil May Cry. I think it's going to be more of a slightly slower pace because you got a variety of monsters. Now, whether or not it's really slow and really deliberate, unknown. But it's like the action that we've seen has been over the shoulder, or like from the third person back, with holding a bladed weapon. And I remember the first trailer they showed like you have a drone and then you're able to like kind of a little bit of near automata, like hold on to the drone to like to hover a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how much it can do, I'm not, I don't think it's going to be necessarily carry you around, um,
It's
like
somewhat like a
long
companion kind of.
distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like the setting seems pretty cool as far as a weird, twisted, um, modern day kind of thing
Yeah.
because it's uh, one of the one of the monsters it shows looks like what is it? The Spider-Man villain from the last Into the Spider-Verse movie, Spot or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You know, it has a giant hole in its face. It kind of also reminds you of um, Spiral. You
Mm.
know, stuff.
Oh.
Uh, it's a weird, twisted, creepy creature, and even the human people kind of remind you of something out of Dune. Um, it's like just over this there's an overly heavyweight set person with um who looks kind of monstrous, like a like a souls like character,
Mm-hmm.
very ominous figure. So all right.
I'm sure
uh
it'll probably do a lot of this similar stuff, but it just looked like it was trying to do maybe a little bit more, and I just wonder about it.
I mean, like I said, I think it's just going to be a in my brain, I just boil if I had to boil it down to a simple thing, I was like, it's a Souls like.
Mm.
It's probably my safest bet. If it plays a little more arcadey than that and a little more like loose, I would be more happy. Um, Give me a like a Stellar Blade kind of action, but in that kind of setting, the
Mm.
creepy style, I'm like that would be more suitable for me. But anyways, yes, I'm actually kind of hopeful for this one. All right.
Next up, Lies of P Overture. I guess this is a DLC, um, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's the DLC from what I heard.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, did you get to play Liza P when it first came out?
No, I did not. I had no interest in it, but I did hear from some people that I respect their opinion at least, that it was kind of perfunctory in some ways early on, but then like later on it was actually kind of doing its own thing and way more unique and fun than really anybody thought it was going to be. So anyway, I've got I've got respect for it, but yeah, I didn't get a chance to play it, and so I kind of really don't know what is really going on with this DLC.
I just discovered my optometrist as a Liza P fan. It was really funny because
It's weird.
they were. Yeah, it's I haven't seen them for a while, and I went back and I knew they were into like The Witcher and stuff like that, and it was funny because they got into Elden Ring, but they've never Elden Ring was their first Souls like game, and then they tried playing some other like I think like the Dark Souls remake or whatever. And it's like I played that and Liza P at the same time, and I'm like I couldn't the mechanics of the old game I couldn't get into, and I was more into Liza P, because
Mm,
the older Souls games were just too clunky for them, and I'm like, yeah, I can see that
yeah,
totally.
yeah.
So, all
That's
right,
small world,
uh,
man.
I mean, if people like it, and I mean, I'm glad they're getting some more DLC for it. Hopefully, if it gets enough love, then it'll probably get a sequel in the near future. So, all right, what else we got?
A couple interesting things here. Dreams of Another. Um, uh, this game is going to be on PS5, but it's also going to be on PSVR 2. I want to say that at the outset because I saw that at the end. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But this game is, it has a kind of a weird art style, and you are a character with a gun or a machine gun, and you are in this sort of amorphous blob, bokeh out, painterly world with no, with just colors and not really much in the way of shapes or anything like that. So, but you, so it's like third person over the shoulder, and you have like a machine gun, and you shoot, and when you shoot, instead of destroying, it creates. So like he shoots into like certain area and it creates a door, and then like he shoots like uh, across like a span, and then like trees and stuff and like the environment appears. So um that was a definitely like a very kind of weird backwards different mechanic. It's like okay, that, and so that, and then the art style sort of surrounding it was also kind of making me take notice. But besides that, I don't remember anything else about like what it's like about, like what the goal is. That was kind of enough to make me go, okay, that looks pretty cool. Looks at least like it's worth my time to look into a bit. But yeah, yeah. So, and then also being in PSVR 2, I was like, okay, that's an added bonus.
Yeah, so this is the third game that they added. There was only three that they talked about for PSVR 2, and this is done by it's Pixel Junk, which they came out with a bunch of solid games over the years. Pixel Junk Monster, which if I remember correctly was a tower defense game. You got Num Num Galaxy, Pixel Junk Shooter. I'm pretty sure you have that one on the Vita because that was
Mm,
like one of the early Vita games for PlayStation Plus, and yeah, they've made a lot of fun stuff in the past. Um, this almost it almost looked like our dreams, like the actual game, and so I was kind of surprised to see them. It's like, but it's kind of funny. It's the concept is silly, like using a gun to destroy to create, and it's just like, yeah, um, all right. I mean,
I
you could
mean,
say the same thing with fire. You could just burn it all to the ground and make it the whole death and rebirth kind of thing or whatever. But I don't know. It seemed like a silly premise, but
y-
it looks interesting enough,
yeah,
and
I'm
it
hoping they
should.
can do something with that, and it's not just oh, we're doing it backwards. I hope they can do something with that and go, oh, this is this, and it's like, oh, okay. I hope there's a bit more stacked onto the gameplay than just shoot here and make a door.
Yeah, I think it'll be. I think it'll look really cool in
Mm,
VR with the OLED and stuff like that. PSVR 2. So if anything, it should be at least kind of visually striking. Uh, yeah.
mm,
All right. I don't have any reason in my brain right now to be like I don't think it's going to be fun. Uh, and yeah, it is just weird because obviously it's supposed to be a dream like mindscape because he's in pajamas with a machine gun strapped to his back.
yeah,
So yeah,
it's
you
funny.
color me curious. Okay. So, all right, what else we got?
Next up, Stellar Blade X Nikkei, Goddess of Victory DLC coming out. I don't remember when, but it wasn't. I think June. I think it was said it was June. I can't remember exactly, but it's not too far away. So I was like, oh, cool. So a little bit more DLC to keep me coming back to Stellar Blade. Looks pretty cool. Looks like you get to um, dress Eve up in some Nikkei costumes and stuff like that. If it's just like the Nier crossover, then that's fine with me. That's all I kind of want is go around and collect some costumes and some cards or something or other. Um, just kind of enough to revisit that game. So, yeah.
Yeah. So this one looked like it had some unique scenes to it. So that I mean, they had like a different field effect, like walking up, with like certain flowers and shrine type of thing in the background. So that was in. So I was kind of surprised by that, and the I don't know. I hope this isn't going to be like too expensive, because I feel like it's a kind of weird crossover to have this late in the game. Um, I know that that it's supposed to be rumored that they're having the crossover go the other way as well. In Nikkei Goddess of Victory, they're supposed to be having a Stellar Blade crossover into it.
Okay.
Um, I mean, uh, One Up Games, or this is both they're all both owned by the same company. So I'm like, this is kind of it almost feels like it should
Fake
be a freebie.
crossover.
Uh yeah, it's just, like if like literally they make both this is the
Yeah.
two games they make the most money off of. So yeah, anyways,
Kind of. I mean,
I was
I didn't think
surprised.
about that, but yeah, it's like it's sort of like they probably should have done this. Well, I don't want to say they should have done it first because you kind of want to do like something different with a different company first. That's kind of the point of the crossover. So maybe it being late in the game is like, okay, we're gonna do something else after this, but we're gonna throw we're gonna do an easy, crossover because we can, like we're right here. So
Yeah.
I'll just do that.
My bad, I said One Up. I meant Shift Up Games. But
Right.
yes, anyways, like I said, uh yeah, Nikkei and Stellar Blade being the two biggest things they've done, period. So uh that was funny. I heard the music and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, and it looks the character models. I'm like, all right, this is pretty interesting, pretty funny. Uh, yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's just something that was unexpected. And all right, one thing I was going to mention is also we skipped over right before this was the Days Gone remastered.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I'll just keep that quick. Days Gone remaster is supposed to be coming out the 25th of April, and yeah, I mean it's supposed to come out with some DLC. Supposed to have some new modes to it, like a photo mode and some more accessibility, coloring. Because a lot of the games are doing the high contrast uh, accessibility when it comes to like the enemies are literally bright red, and your allied characters are bright blue, stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, that's neat. That's nice that they're doing that. I don't think they ever came out with an official PS5 version, anyways. Like not
Oh.
like maybe it was enhanced to PS5, but I remember the game. I thought the game originally was a PS4 game. If I'm trying to remember. So uh, I just yeah. So anyways, if
I
this
think
this does
so.
well, maybe it's a test bed because a lot of people in hindsight like this game, but when it first came out, it got a lot of flack for not being what people were expecting. Um, but then afterwards, I feel like the in the last couple of years, it has gotten a longer lease in life. Like especially like toward with the pandemic and stuff, people are like, yeah, you remember that game? Like it's actually better than you remember it to be. It's a little long, but it's like has I feel it's gotten kind of a cult following post.
I mean, whenever, whenever it first, like the trailer for it came out, or the gameplay trailer and stuff came out, whatever podcast I was listening to at the time, they were like, they'd been waiting for it for a long time, thinking, having heard about it and stuff, and when they saw the trailer for it and the gameplay, they were like, "This is awful. This game is going to be terrible." Blah 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 blah, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I go away, and then the game comes out, and I'm hearing like, "This game's actually really really amazing. This game's actually really really good." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I was sort of just jerked around like that. I never got a chance to play it. I probably won't because it looks like it looks all right, but I'm glad it's getting a remastered version so that anybody that was interested in it can can get a chance to play it on the new system, but maybe a little better quality and quality of life stuff as well.
well, it's also supposed to be coming to PC as well.
Mm,
So that's the other thing to it. And also with Stellar Blade, with this Nikkei DLC, they also mentioned that the Stellar Blade is supposed to be coming to PC around June sometime. So that's the other thing is that's when they've officially kind of put a ballpark for the Stellar Blade PC version. So this is Sony
right.
taking their first party games and starting to port more over to PC, which is overall a good thing.
Yeah, more fun for everybody.
All right. Well, what else is next?
Next up is a little game. It's going to be a game catalog launch, so I think that means it's going to come straight to like PS Plus and stuff like that. You'll have access to it day one. It's called Blueprints, and it's my in my notes I just wrote like it's an architecture game. Um, you're like kind of going around kind of looking in these buildings and stuff, and I think it's got puzzles and kind of a mazy sort of a gameplay style there. So it's but it looked kind of interesting to me, something worth checking out. At least doing a little bit more investigation on, and the fact that it's coming to the game catalog was like okay, so very low barrier to entry. So anyway, that's kind of what I liked about it.
All right. Yeah, I think it was kind of funny because it's blueprints, but it seems to be more of like since it's architecture blueprints. I think they were supposed to try to have fun with that kind of concept of name.
I didn't even
Uh,
get that. You're right. Yeah, that makes
you
perfect
know, and
sense. Yeah.
they kind of have it make it a puzzle like or like a semi horror kind of aesthetic. So all right, and then right before that, they also mentioned the it's supposed to be a game that's I don't know if I thought it was supposed to be done by the same team who did oh goodness the adventure games uh I'm drawing a blank now. The it's Square Enix or Life is Strange, the Life is Strange series. I think it's supposed to
Oh,
be off of them.
it's that
The
twee
Lost Records,
girls. Yeah, record. Yeah,
yeah. So
punk
yeah,
punk band
Lost
game.
Records, Bloom and Rage Tape One, which means that it's going to be
First
like a
episode.
multi-part.
It's the first
Yeah,
episode. Yeah, yeah. That's like I look at that and I'm like, man, I want to like this, but I just it just looks too twee, which is fine. That fits a type of person, and it's going to probably be really influential and really amazing for a certain generation of people. But yeah, I was just like, yeah. But
you know, yeah. So this is by Don't Nod, and
right.
they are the Life is Strange. So it's let's take uh let's take the concept, but make it the vibe I got from it was it the old Stephen King book uh Stand by Me? Stand by Me. So it's like let's take
Oh,
Stand by Me, but make it a bunch of girls set in the in the 90s, early 90s or something like that because they have camcorders and stuff like that and
yeah.
watching CRT and watch them go on their adventure. So
Mhm.
I mean, it's probably not going to be a bad game. I mean, Don't Nod make okay stories. I just at the same time they're very much if if you like their old stuff, you'll probably like this one. And if you don't, then yeah, you know what to expect. I feel that that's exactly it. They make a certain
Yeah.
kind of game, and you know what to expect from it. Though the last Life is Strange 2, or
The
the most
photo
recent
one,
one, the one that's the one that's the most. It's a direct sequel from the first. Has not gotten a lot of love. It's kind of a
really.
friend of mine has recently gone through the catalog, except for the newest one, and as the series has gone, he's like, yeah, it's kind of progressively getting kind of a little less each time, and I've heard just not so great things about the newest Life is Strange.
Well,
So,
they
which
pr-
is a
they
shame, but maybe that's why they're starting with a whole new IP now.
like yeah they probably spent most of their good ideas on the first one, and they probably just aren't able to really innovate because they're like, well, we got to make we got to make money and stuff like that. I do think that from what I've heard, Life is Strange sort of kind of took on um, no pun intended, but kind of took on a life of its own and sort of uh, was way, way, way more popular than anybody like expected it to be. Like sold like way better than anybody thought that it would. Um, so that was kind of like, oh, that's kind of a weird thing. But you never know. I might get drunk one night and get on PlayStation Store and download this episode 1 of this what is it called?
It's
Stand by
Lost Records,
Punk Me. Oh,
Bloom and Rage.
Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. Yeah, that's what I might do.
Well, I can see it being if they do a PlayStation, if they make it a PlayStation Plus game or PlayStation Plus, not essentials, but if they do one of the other tiers, I can see it getting more traction that way.
Mm,
And it's a good way for people to who normally wouldn't maybe dabble in it to really experience it and have a good time. Once again, I don't think it'll be a bad game. I think you pretty much know exactly what to expect from them.
mm.
And as far as a story jaunt, then yeah, it shouldn't be too
I
bad.
mean, the episodic stuff is very concerning. It's not 2016. I would be. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It's like
I think it's nothing to it's a sh- it's a it, the concept is it's a shorter game.
yeah.
Okay, it's not meant to be a 20-hour game. It's meant to be more like a 10-hour game probably. And having two small bite-sized bits, makes more sense, especially when you're a smaller studio that doesn't want to run the risk of like when you have to make it game by game, right?
Right.
Yes, there is a chance that this may not make it and they may never make the sequel, but at the same time chances are they're already if this is coming out soon, they're already in production for the sequel. They just roll into it like a film. And
It's
uh
probably more
you
that
know
it's probably more that like okay, the first episode didn't really do what we wanted. We were always going to make the second episode, but instead of like really doing it up well, we're going to maybe not half-ass it, but we're going to like B team it and kind of not put as many features in it and make it as polished as we would have if the first one had sold really well. It's probably along those lines, but yeah. Anyway, so we will see how it goes. Um,
yes, and so the newest one is the game that they followed after that is a Biotic Factor, or um I didn't really pay much attention to it. It didn't seem very interesting to me. It was so I was just like, all right, I just kind of glossed over it
Yep.
personally.
Like some of these are just kind of thrown kind of quickly, so it was like, yeah. Well, like I don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah. All right. What was the next game then?
Next game, probably is my pick of the show. Um, maybe not the game I want to play most that's coming out this year. But for the show, probably the one I was most interested in, a little game called Tides of Annihilation. Somebody made a joke in the YouTube comments, and I tend to agree with them. This game seems like a spiritual successor to Heavenly Sword that came out on PlayStation 3. It was a launch title, short, stylish game. Never really got to play that game too much, but I do remember when it came out because it was like one of the first games on PS3, and it was like, whoa, look at these graphics, whoa. This game seems to have some of the same like kind of camera angles and doing sliding down like these like long chains and like fighting. It looks way more advanced. I'm not gonna I'm not trying to say it's just Heavenly Sword. It looks way more advanced, but it definitely reminded me of that. And somebody was like in the YouTube comments was like I forget exactly what they said, but it was like uh, uh, this is like a sequel to Heavenly Sword, or good enough to be a sequel to Heavenly Sword. So they were just kind of satisfied with it, and I was like, okay, that's kind of funny, but just in its own right, it does look pretty cool. I think it's a female protagonist, kind of going around and fighting weird creatures and sort of like a post-apocalyptic or sort of ruined world maybe. So that's kind of the long and short of it. But but I liked kind of what I was seeing from it the most, of any game here. In some ways, it was sort of like what it sort of crosses to the other side of what Lost Soul Aside was, where it's like that game was like just not quite enough to make me interested, and this game is like just beyond enough to make me like like extra interested in what it's going to do, and exploring around with it some more.
I find it funny that you, of all the things, you're like, yeah, it's like Heavenly Sword. I'm like, really? I just feel like it's cribbing off of Stellar Blade, which is then itself cribbing off of Near, because it is very much a
Yeah.
I feel like it's a homage to Stellar Blade. We're going to take a post-apocalyptic world, but instead of making it sci-fi, we're going to make it Dark Souls aesthetic, where there's more of a monstrous thing, which technically so does Stellar Blade have, but we're going to make it a dark and more brooding atmosphere. We're even going to have a small childlike figure that looks very much like Lily in Stellar Blade, and we're going to have it almost sounded like the same voice. I didn't actually look into it, but I was just like, okay. Uh, Honestly, if it plays well, if it plays solid, then it's good enough. Um, but yeah, it's just like I felt like that was very much a Stellar Blade, but in like London or like in some sort of like UK
Yeah,
setting.
but like but like some of the combat styles and stuff and the things that you're doing, just yeah, there's definitely a lot of Stellar Blade in there, but like I think that this game's probably been in development since before Stellar Blade came out. I think that there's probably a little bit of people borrowing. There's like a, you know how like how grunge, kind of all the grunge bands sort of kind of came out at the same time, like in the 90s. I think there's sort of stuff that happens like that in game development as well, where stylistically there's sort of a movement kind of to like independent of each other but also together, like kind of having the same idea at the same time, but like the
Yeah,
like
but this isn't even remotely coming out like soon. It's just wishlist it now.
yeah.
So this is at least a 20 in my brain it's at least a 2026 game because they've announced games on this that's like coming out in 2026. So they've like
Yeah.
they're not afraid to say 2026, but this one's just like no, they're just wishlisted, not even but it like I said, it looks um the action seems very more on the fast-paced side. Um and I didn't get like God of War vibes. And that was the thing is
Mm,
Heavenly Sword was very much a female God of War.
mm,
Um at that time. And so yeah, I feel like it's, granted, yeah, people have certain styles of games they want to make, and this feels a faster pace type of setting. Also kind of has that boss. No, they showed what felt like a bunch of bosses, so it made it seem like a boss rush. But they also showed you fighting a few lesser characters. So I'm like, okay, it's not just a boss rush game, but they do have a lot of emphasis on big, massive like enemies, where that's kind of the Souls aesthetic, right? So it's like, yeah, let's make a fast-paced Souls game, and that's fine. Uh, but very much a in the works and unknown when this will ever come out type of setting. So
yeah.
that all right. It was interesting that was your pick of the show. So
I mean,
but
it
most definitely
definitely
an
looked,
interesting
it
one.
definitely looked the most interesting, and with it being so far away, then you know, it could crash and burn. You never know.
All right, and so what else was after this then?
Next up, Metal Eden. Um, this is I don't really remember too much about it. It was kind of interesting to me, but it seemed to be sort of a near future, um, you know, uh, sort of a thing where you're, like over the shoulder shooting. I remember them shooting like one thing that I remembered that was sort of silly was he was shooting a truck, and the truck exploded, and it didn't really seem like the truck should have exploded. It didn't look like a like an oil tanker or anything like that, or a gas tanker.
I think you have the wrong game in mind
Oh, is that
because
Mind's Eye? Oh, okay.
this is far sci-fi future,
No, this is
first
okay. Now I
person.
remember. Yeah, this was the one. Okay, yeah,
So
Metal Eden. Yeah, this is a FPS. This is a solid first person shooter, and it is far cyberpunk. Um, yeah, this one had the really cool world, um, and and some it had a really cool world, and it had some other cool stuff to it. But like the actual gameplay, I was like, if it's just FPS, I don't really know if it's really going to be worth it. But yeah, I did like the aesthetic of this one, um, and I do want to look into it some more.
Yeah, because this one, all right. So the first person aspects to this is like, hey, think of it as a Titanfall, like you're in some sort of mech or something like that. At least that's what it made it look like. You're in at least at one point to show the uh the whole character who looked like straight out of like Bubblegum Crisis, the anime,
Right? Yeah, she
and
kind of
so you
does.
had some sort of exosuit with like wings on it, looking at a giant mech. But this is more of like a fast-paced Doom, uh, robot, sci-fi, clone kind of thing. If you had to, associate it with something, because there's a lot of strafing, a lot of fast pace, but also like Titanfall because you're jumping and wall running, and jumping off of that and rocket, shooting and stuff like that. So that was, it seemed pretty good that way. And then it ends with a really bad static shot of like it's a bad poster, and it really made me cringe just because it's uh, over the shoulder, one guy shooting up into the right, and the other person angling down into the left, and just seemed really out of touch. Like this is, I don't know, 2010 Overwatch poster, but not. But
Yeah.
it's this one's supposed to be dated for May 6th. So
Oh,
we'll find out more soon enough.
dang! It is right around the corner. Yeah, has a really cool look to it. And I just kind of am afraid it's going to be just a skin and not really doing anything interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so the next one is the one that you were thinking of before, I believe. And this is actually the one I'm most interested in for a handful of reasons. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about this first.
So this, yeah, something about this reminded me, like the driving. I think made me think of GTA. They seem to be pretty proud of the driving. It it is a somewhat more near future, more kind of normal environments, but still um, still sci-fi uh, shooting. Kind of an interesting, weird story with a lot of twists and turns. It looks like. Um, Hard to tell more about it. I can't remember very much more about it, but it did look pretty cool.
All right. So the reason why it looks like GTA is because this is Leslie Benson doing this, and this is former one of the former hotshots from Rockstar.
Mm,
They left. They were known. Giant Bomb often referred to them as the Bens, but they were also noted just in the industry as being like the fixer, the person who, when came time to crunch or when things had problems, they would help pull the studio, like pull the team across the finish line.
wow.
So they left a long time ago, and this is their
Harvey Keitel,
studio.
the wolf in
Um,
in Pulp Fiction. Sorry, go
so
ahead.
yeah, this is their new thing, and that's why the driving and that kind of looks similar, but also the main character in this, uh, they're actually they're the same. It's the same actor who played Lincoln Clay in Mafia 3. So it's
Mm,
Alex Hernandez, and because I looked, I'm like, that person looks familiar. I'm like, why do I know them? But yes, so this is the concept seems to be. Uh, Probably former soldier of some sort, because they make reference to being like uh, saving that person in the desert or something like that. And it looks like they got some neural implants.
right.
So it's like they got a little thing. Looks like the previous person had gone like haywire or something. And so that's gonna it has that. It's like a cyberpunk, 2077, or but earlier, yeah, essentially. um and this game actually seems pretty interesting, that front. You got some interesting shooting. If you got a really fun sci-fi story, uh you know that's that's something I prefer out of, like, when it comes to a GTA game, I want a decent story. Yes, it's fun to have the sandbox, but I don't have the time to just see how high my star rating can get, how long I can last,
Mm.
and I sure as heck ain't gonna waste time with uh GTA Online or anything like that. So, yeah, having a GTA style game, third person, action, open world. It doesn't even have to be open world. It can be a little more narrow. That's fine. Uh, but I think the story itself will be pretty cool. The graphics and like the actual character modeling and stuff like that, I think it looks solid. So I'm really interested to see what they do with this. And I remember just hearing about, like, I would have never cared about what this person, like what Leslie did after this. I'm like, yeah, I knew they were a big name. I knew they're like, I didn't know exactly what granular level they had with Grand Theft Auto, but I just knew they were always a big part of it. That's not enough to get me interested. But watching this trailer, I'm like, yes, I am most definitely sold on this. It's supposed to be, according to the trailer, it's like summer of 2025.
Okay.
So uh, yeah, I'm hoping that it actually comes out over the summer. You know, like everything else, expect it all to be delayed. you know,
Mm.
expect everything to be delayed, especially when it's a open world game like this. But hey, it's also being partnered with IO Interactive, which is the guys from Hitman. So that means that
Right.
a lot of those stuff should be hopefully there'll be the mechanics of shooting and just the overall world will be nice. And I don't know. There's a lot of things to be excited about this one. So this is actually what I'm more excited about. But yeah, that's it. That's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, it looks like it'll be good. At least at least worth looking into some more.
All right, and then yeah, what else we had?
The last thing is something coming from Housemark, uh, who yeah, I think I have the name right. Housemark, who are the guys that made Returnal. Um, it is a game called Saros, and we kind of just got a little bit like a bit of a cinematic teaser trailer. Um, a guy kind of is confronting a some sort of supernatural alien being or something, and there's some talking here and there about sort of just sort of a kind of vague vague things that sound cool. So it's hard to tell what exactly is going to be involved with this, but if it's from the guy from Housemark and Returnal, then it will probably be it'll probably have some interesting mechanics and be uh, be unique at least a little bit, or maybe kind of some sort of a of a sequel to Returnal or spiritual sequel or something like that. But don't know too much about it yet. But um, it looks promising so far. We'll see.
Yeah, this is most definitely like a spiritual successor to Returnal, without a doubt, because the things he says is pretty much like how he's always dying and repeating, but when he
Mm,
repeats, he comes back stronger. They specifically show when he looks at this giant alien deity with multiple arms. They show having launching you see a circular pattern of orbs, like which is Housemark. They do a lot of action shooter games, and if you haven't it's always a bullet hell kind of concept, and that's very much what Returnal was. So if it's Returnal, more of that essentially, I think they'll do just fine. This is kind of I'm excited for it, and then even if it's not a direct sequel, I'm curious if it's tied into the world at all. I never finished Returnal. It
mm.
got ridiculously hard. Maybe one day I'll go back to it. But yeah, that's good for them. That's kind of a cool and surprising one last thing at the end. The I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. But yeah, I mean that's it really.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, definitely. Kind of a good thing to end the show on. I'd like to see a little bit more, um, but um, one of the more interesting things I saw.
Yeah, they didn't really have they just this is the one that they announced like straight up 2016.
Right.
So yeah, it's not even remotely on the radar
I mean,
for now. It's just more
2026.
2016. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 2026. Yes, absolutely right.
We're
So they're
we're
like,
going
yeah,
to release
2026.
it
They're
in the
like,
past.
yeah. I mean, hey, that's a housemark thing to do. Uh
Yeah.
we technically had it in an Easter egg in a thing. No,
And you
that's some
never
AR
found it.
junk right there.
Yeah.
Um
It's buried in the
no,
desert.
no. Yeah, 2026. So they no qualms about saying, "Hey, we're making something new, but it's going to be far away." Um, be excited. So that's cool. All right. Yeah, that was it for the state of play. A lot of good, interesting things coming out, and I mean, not they've had more shiny things in the past, but they had enough. This is overall pretty solid. I feel. What were your thoughts?
Pretty good. Definitely a lot more interesting after having watched it. It is a lot of small stuff that I will be fairly interested in trying and looking into more. So so nothing here is gonna like really take my top spot for most anticipated game of this year, which I'm not even really sure what that would actually be right now. But um but definitely a lot of stuff that's like, okay, put that on my list, look at that a little more, check that out. And overall it was fairly entertaining. I think it's a good a good early part of the year showcase. Hopefully, we get a bit more oomph in the next showcase during the summer or like early summer, late spring. Um, I'm hoping to see a bit more uh, things that are more appealing to me. But for now, this is pretty good.
Yeah, so that's the thing is they did announce that with the Borderlands 4 that they will be doing a separate state of play, pretty much just for Borderlands 4. So that'll be interesting to see when that time comes too. I think the big takeaway as well is this is supposed to be majority of it's slated for this year.
Mm,
So that's a good thing. I mean, it's showing that hey, this year is pretty promising, and it's not. You don't have to have the fear of um, it being pushed out for the launch of a new console. Yeah, or at least, the other thing is with a lot of Nintendo Switch 2 things. When you have that, you're looking at I mean, uh, like a lot of the new games that are slated for later like later down the road, you're like, well, that's obviously going to be a Switch 1, Switch 2 port, and therefore, or they've been originally building off the Switch 1, so Switch 2 will get it and it'll run better, but it's not really a real Switch 2 game, just kind of like how the PlayStation 5 started out. Like a lot of these games aren't really PlayStation 5, they're more like PS4 games.
mm.
So you're not getting the full like brevity of the new system. Uh, but with this, I mean, these are like, hey, that's great. This is all coming out for my current gen. I don't have to worry about it. Their attention being diverted. And just at a quick glance, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a pretty solid year, hopefully. And there's at least a
Promising.
little bit of something for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, promising to say the least. With Directive 8020, um, and dang it, where was the other one? You put it in here. So Split Fiction, um, you know, some stuff like that. It's definitely like okay, then um, some of your own critical darlings are at least there to kind of hold you over. There's going to be a lot of other good games that come out this year, and a lot of stuff that comes out of left field. That's really cool. But at least when you have those, it's good to have a good. It's good to have uh, your B team in stock, where it's like, yeah, these may not be like the best game of the year, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's in my niche.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right. So that's really about it for it. And there's no outside of the state of play, there wasn't a whole lot of really interesting news that we found. So we're just gonna pretty much leave it at this, just us talking about the state of play. And
I would like to
to
say,
get it,
so it's
yeah,
okay because some of this stuff I do actually want to save because podcast getting a bit long in the tooth. So I want to save some of this other stuff to breathe a bit more. The only thing that I would want to talk about just a little bit, and I won't say much about it, is I did get a chance to play the Monster Hunter beta, um, and I did enjoy my time with that quite a bit. I'd never really dived into a Monster Hunter before. I played a little bit of Monster Hunter World back in the day. Kind of quickly overwhelmed, and went on to something else. With this one, I want to try to get into a bit more, but it was a little bit overwhelming um, to start. So I was like, okay, but even with that, I could tell that there was a lot of stuff that they have that they are not including in the beta. They're kind of, I mean, I'm sure someone who played all the way through the beta could tell you a lot more, because there does seem like there are quite a few other monsters and things to do. But in the beta, it seemed like they were like, okay, all you can really do is go and hunt monsters that like are here. You can't really do very much of like you can't like mess with like the meal system or really the crafting. I didn't get to play it too much, and then it expired before I got to explore very much more. But everything I played of it was pretty solid. I didn't feel like it was too hard. I felt like it was pretty interesting and just felt pretty good to play overall. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, pleasantly pleased, I guess, not too surprised. And because I've kind of been on the fence about buying it, I do want to buy it, but it is kind of a big thing to jump in the deep end on. But yeah, I'm pretty encouraged, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to pre-order it pretty close to the release date, and play a lot of it in March.
Yeah, so because yeah, it comes out February 28th.
Right.
If you pre-order it now, you get a like an outfit, a new outfit for the character. The main question is, what were you playing at? Like, what weapon set were you playing at? What was your main?
So they kind of threw some different weapons at me, or they kind of said, well, this kind of thing, and I was like, I just want like survivability. So I'm okay with playing this game kind of in a more boring fashion. So what I went with was the lance and shield, and the way they explained it was like,
You would do a lance and shield.
I don't have anybody here to help me. I don't really know how to play this game. I don't really know what I'm doing. I just want to be able to turtle and hit until I kind of figure out what's really going on. Um, and so, and that was a good move early on, because I did have to kind of creep up to it. But the way that was pitched, the way that they pitched the lance and shield is like, you have really, really, really good defense, and you basically have very low maneuverability. But so you'll survive, and you can kind of poke from from that. And that's pretty true, but you still have to. I was like once I got into it, I was like, okay, I actually still have to kind of time this stuff right, because I can't strike with the lance and block with the shield at the same time. Really, I kind of have to, at least in my limited experience, I have to pick one and the other, and I had to time stuff right, and then I had to like do like a power shield sometimes, where I was having to drain my energy while like using this power shield, while the creature was like just like hitting me super hard. And so anyway, timing that all that stuff, timing that right, felt pretty good. I only died like I fought this, I forget what it's called, this alpha. I don't know, sort of. It looked like a cross between a bear and a buffalo. I can't really remember what it's called, but I fought it, and it killed me. It killed me once outright. It kind of stuck me between like a cliff wall and I couldn't shield enough, and I couldn't get to my what do they call it? My secret. I think it's spelled weird, but I think they're called secrets. It's this chocobo bird that you ride around on. And I couldn't get to that to get away. So he got me there. But yeah, there's a lot. There's like, your whetstone and sharpening up, and then, getting your meal, and then running out of meal power. So you actually have less health and less power. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But I'm gonna definitely have fun learning a lot more about it. I hope.
Yeah, it becomes more routine as you play. You have a rhythm as you go through it, and uh, I'm curious about this one as well. Chances are we'll probably end up picking it up. I think like Monster Hunter Worlds was pretty good, and I think this is gonna. It's been a long enough time for them to really open up and make a solid entry. This is supposed to be also coming out day and day with PC this time around, so that's always a good thing. It's gonna be Xbox. I think it's supposed to be Xbox, PlayStation, PC, all 28th. So yeah, that's I'm glad you got a chance to play with it. I'm probably just gonna go with my tried and true hammer. That's kind of
The
what
hammer
I've done.
did seem appealing to me. That's like big swinging max damage. Um, I'll probably
I
end up.
find it far easier. I find it easier just to focus on one thing. Like when I first played, I did Twin Blade. Twin Blade was like, I'm like, all right, I'll just do fast. I was going for more an agility, set, and then I realized with especially depending on who I'm playing with, I'm like, all right, a lot of my, you know, I filled in the niche where it was because no one had blunt objects. So as you start farming for materials,
Mm,
I had enough people with bladed weapons. Bladed weapons are better at cutting things, but I'm like, okay, like cutting off tails or something. And I would use my hammer to like break horns, as it were. So it was, it's a really the franchise is really good. I think this is going to be a really another big stepping on point for a lot of people because it's been a number of years since World and Monster Hunter Rise
Rise is kind of
wasn't
different.
yeah, it was different enough. So that's why I think this is the next entry in the in that whole open map kind of modern, quote unquote, modern Monster Hunter. Um, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you really got a chance to play the beta. And unfortunately, by the time I realized the beta was like there, I didn't have time to play it. I was like, dang it. All right, so which is fine because I knew I was going to want to play the game when it came out. But it's just always fun to get the beta stuff.
I think there's
Just to see
another
the
one like
taste.
coming on like the 16th or something. There's going to be one more a couple day beta. It must be this weekend, I imagine, or something. Anyway, there's another beta that's going to happen before the game releases in full too.
Okay, that would make sense if they pull up at least one more. And I'm always curious what to see. I'm more kind of excited to see what kind of collaborations they got coming down the line.
Right.
The last one had a lot of fun ones. I mean, you had you got to have Ryu, in there as
Mm,
well.
of
So
course, it's
that was
Capcom, so
uh,
it makes sense.
yeah, exactly. It's like do more silly stuff like that, and I think it's great. I don't know. Uh, anyways, all right, that's cool. Uh, well, guys, if you made it to the end, we appreciate it. This has been another Dead Pixel episode. I think it's 114.
Oh,
So
maybe it is 114.
yeah.
I forgot to change
Well,
that. So yeah, I think it probably
uh,
is.
all right, guys. Nick, what are the words of wisdom you got for everyone out there?
Um, you know, whenever you have a monster chasing you, you got to run them through the thicket of vines so they get caught in that, and then you can just wail on them until they break free, and then you got to skedaddle on your secret, and then just run it back, rinse and repeat. Yeah,
Patience. Patience is the
dude,
name of the game.
that game, yeah, it's very that game is it wants you to be slow. That's kind of why I think the hammer does sound appealing because it's like one big fat swing of that thing is just like what the game wants you to do. Anyway,
Yes. All right. Well, until next time, y'all just take it easy.
bye.